In this video, I wanted to see if I could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon White 2 using only electric type Pokemon. That's right, in this video I'll be attempting one of the hardest Pokemon games to Nuzlocke on challenge mode with the glass cannon of Pokemon types. It's a good job I get a lot of strong Pokemon during this run then, because under my hardcore Nuzlocke rules, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and must be released. I can also only catch the first electric type Pokemon per area. The rest of the rules are on screen now and in the description. With the rules out the way, let's jump right into Unova and see if I can beat this ultra hard challenge. Oh, and remember to leave a like and subscribe for more content in the future. So let's get this show on the road. Firstly, we've got to pick our starter, and shockingly, Oshawott, Tepig, and Snivy aren't electric types. That means we have to head to the unpronounceable ranch to find our real starter, a Mareep we named Drake. Drake's actually the only Pokemon I get before the first gym, which means he's really going to have his work cut out for him against our first gym leader, Cheren. Cheren on challenge mode has 3 Pokemon that know work up, meaning if I get unlucky, attempt 1 is going to end pretty quickly. Thankfully, Drake has got one trick up his sleeve that will give me a slight edge, Thunder Wave. Thanks to Thunder Wave, Drake is able to KO the first of Cheren's Pokemon, the ugly meerkat Patrat, without taking a single hit. Maybe this will be easier than I thought. Well, clearly not. We got pretty close during that first attempt, but Cheren's bird was able to survive just long enough to take down Drake. Let's hope attempt 2 goes slightly better. Somehow, attempt 2 is even worse as Cheren's Satan bird takes down Drake once again. Luckily, it's attempt 3 where my luck holds up long enough to finally pull off a win. I'm able to take minimal damage against the Patrat thanks to Growl and Thunder Wave, and then a lucky crit allows me to take down the Lillipup without having to take too much more damage. That means on my third attempt of trying to take down this nightmare bird, Drake is finally able to pull off a win and zap the stupid pigeon to death. That was a very annoying first gym fight, but at the very least, Cheren is down, and as a reward, Drake evolves into Flaffy. With Cheren out the way, we now have to carry on towards our second gym fight, and we actually only get one more encounter, which we find in Verbank Complex. While we might only be able to find one more encounter, it's one of the best encounters in the game, a Magnemite I named Jackson. Jackson is absolutely essential if I want any hope of beating this run, to the point that if I found an Elekid here instead of the Magnemite, I probably would have restarted the entire run. Luckily, we avoided the Kiss of Death from Elekid though, meaning it's time for our second gym battle of the run. Roxy could be fairly annoying, but thanks to Jackson's steel typing, I'm not expecting the poison type gym leader to be much of the problem. So I start with Jackson, while Roxy starts with Coughing. Coughing is only able to hit Jackson with stupidly weak tackles, so it's a simple case of landing 3 Thunder Shocks for a first easy KO. Second is Grimer, who does have the 4 times effective Mud Slap. That means I can't rely on Jackson here, so I switch into Drake. Because Drake is only taking 2 times damage from Mud Slap, unlike Jackson, who would take 4, it's really not doing a huge amount. Grimer is still slightly annoying because of Disable, which could stop Drake using his one attacking move. By spamming Charge until Grimer goes to the Disable though, I can avoid losing my only attacking move. Then, thanks to Roxy healing with a Super Potion and having my accuracy lowered by Mud Slaps, it does take many turns of trying to land Thunder Shocks before annoyingly, Thunder Shock is finally disabled right before I'm finally about to KO the Grimer. At the very least, this isn't a huge issue because the Grimer is now low enough to where I can send in Jackson and then KO with one last Thunder Shock. That was very annoying, but at least now we're down to Roxy's last Pokemon, Whirlipede. Now if I get super unlucky here and Whirlipede lands continuous rollouts, I will be slightly screwed. Because of this, I decide to play it safe and start with a Thunder Wave while Whirlipede starts rolling out. This is starting to look scary, but Whirlipede immediately gets fully paralyzed. Well, that's perfect because Jackson is then able to start spamming Thunder Shocks, and the Whirlipede is able to build up some momentum with rollouts, but it's not enough to KO Jackson before he can win us the battle with Thunder Shocks. Had complete faith in Jackson there, wasn't expecting the game to screw me over at all. Next, we head over to Castelia City, where we're able to grab the Eviolite, which will turn my Magnet from a tanky boy to an absolute unit. We're then able to make our way through I meant the Castelia Sewers, where our next encounter awaits. Well, kind of our next encounter. In the Castelia Gardens, I can find an Eevee I name Best. I can't actually evolve Best into Jolteon just yet, so Best will be being boxed for now. That means it's already time for Berg and his bug type types, and thanks to Jackson now being stupidly tanky and confident going into this gym battle. So I start with Jackson, while Berg starts with Dwebble. After getting off a Thunder Wave, I decide to save Jackson for Berg's more scary bugs, so I switch into Drake. On the switch, Dwebble gets fully paralyzed, perfect. So interesting quirk about the Gen 5 AI, it really hates being slower than you. That means amusingly, Dwebble then proceeds to spam Rock Polish over and over again in a vain attempt to outspeed Drake. This allows Drake to KO the Dwebble without taking a single hit. I'll assume the Gen 5 AI is just a really big fan of Sonic or something. Anyway, with Dwebble down, up next to Berg is Carablast. I do try and get off a Thunder Wave, but before I'm able to land the move, the stupid bug lands a headbutt which triggers static. I think that was lucky. Oh well, I suppose the end result was the same. With the Carablast paralyzed, I switch into Jackson on a weak headbutt. Annoyingly, a mirror shot then fails to KO, meaning Jackson has to take another headbutt before finally getting the KO with 2 more Thunder Shocks. Next to Berg is his ace, Leavanny. I was hoping to have Jackson on slightly more HP at this point, because if Leavanny crits, I could be in a bit of trouble. Not a lot I can do to play around that at this point though, so I stay in and take a Razor Leaf that thankfully doesn't crit before landing a Thunder Wave. Jackson then lands a powerful mirror shot before Leavanny gets fully paralyzed. My luck has been kind of crazy this fight so far, and that luck actually holds out long enough for Jackson to get off 2 more mirror shots for the KO. All that leaves is Shelmet, who really can't threaten Jackson, so 2 more mirror shots are enough to win us the match. If my luck was worse during that fight, we might have ran into some problems, but honestly that was pretty straightforward. 3rd gym badge acquired. Moving on from Castelia City, we actually have a decent amount to do before we get to our next gym. Firstly, we grab the hidden Thunderstone in Nimbasa, which lets us evolve Best into Jolteon. Second, we head east onto Route 16, where we can find our next encounter, an Emolga we named Dove. Dove is actually pretty important as one of our few counters to ground-type Pokemon, so I'm happy to add our Flying Rat to our party. Lastly then, before our 4th gym battle, I'm able to evolve Jackson into Magneton and Drake into Ampharos. With our team amped up, we're now ready for our next challenge, Elisa, the Electric-type gym leader. This one's an important one, because if I can beat Elisa here, I can prove that I'm the hottest Electric-type trainer in the region. Sorry, did I say hottest? Slip of the tongue, I meant best. Yeah, totally, the best Electric-type trainer. Yes, Elisa starts with Emolga, and I start with Best. Best immediately outspeeds and lands a Thunder Fang for good damage before the rat lands a weak Aerial Ace. Annoyingly, before I can land a second Thunder Fang, Elisa hard switches into Zebstrika, meaning I just gave Elisa's ace a 3 speed boost. Did the AI switch there because it saw that I used an electric type move last turn and it knew it had a Pokemon with Motor Drive in the back? I'm honestly not sure, but if that's the case, that's pretty smart honestly. At least I'm now in a good position to get off a dig here, so after taking a really hard stomp, Best lands a dig that actually fails to do more than 50%. Was really hoping Best will be able to handle this spiky horse, but this isn't looking good. I do decide to take a risk and go through another dig, but of course before Best can land an attack, Zebstrika goes for a second stomp that flinches. Ouch, well at least Best is still alive. I now have no choice though but to hope Jackson can take down the ace, which is not ideal because of Flame Charge. At least on the Switch, Jackson only has to take a really weak stomp. I then get really lucky because for some reason Zebstrika just goes for a resisted pursuit instead of the Flame Charge. This AI is strange sometimes. This allows Jackson to get off a mirror shot, which unfortunately is immediately cured by a berry. Zebstrika then goes for a stomp that flinches. Okay then, really not sure why this is happening, but I continue to get lucky as Zebstrika refuses to go for Flame Charge, which allows Jackson to get off mirror shots and sonic booms till the spiky horse falls. I'll be honest, I really feel like I should have just lost this run, but I suppose if the game wants to give me a 3 win, I'm not going to complain. Not completely out the woods just yet, because up next is Flaffy. Annoyingly, Jackson misses a sonic boom on the pink sheep before being paralyzed with a Thunder Wave. Well I suppose I can't complain about my luck after how I handled the ace. Jackson is able to land 1 sonic boom while taking a takedown before the Flaffy goes for a Volt Switch into Joltik on the following turn. Jackson has now been brought low enough to where I have to switch, so I send Dove in on a resisted X-Scissor. A single acrobatics from Dove is then able to finish off the bug. Next, the pink sheep comes back out, so I switch into Drake. Of course, because this pink sheep is kind of a dick, she immediately lands another Thunder Wave into Drake. Well, that's annoying. Hopefully at least I'll be able to land a Confuse Ray here. Of course not. Right, okay Flathy, you're going on my list. Flathy clearly didn't like being added to my annoying bastard gym Pokemon list because she immediately lands a takedown that crits, doing huge damage. I think I'm being punished for my luck against Zebstrika. It's not all bad luck though, because Drake does snap out of confusion and lands his own Confuse Ray. On the next turn, Drake is able to land his own Thunder Wave. Right, with a bit of luck here, we'll still win this 1v1, so I start going for Thunder Punches, and I must have prayed to the right god because Flathy hurts herself twice in a row, allowing Drake to pick up the KO. All that leaves is the weakened Emolga, and my team is really beaten up at this point. I decide it's not worth the risk of switching, so I stay in and Drake has to take a really scary Aero Lace, but he pulls through like always and gets fully paralyzed. Right, this is bad. Surely we didn't come this close to winning this battle just to lose right at the end, right? Well, with a bit more bad luck, it looks like that's the way this is going. Honestly, Drake is the most expendable member of my team here, so I decide to stay in and hope I can take another Aerial Ace, and Drake survives on 2 HP. Annoyingly, my excitement is short-lived because Thunder Punch then fails to get the KO. Okay, well Drake isn't taking another hit, so I now have to send in Dove. I really didn't want to risk Dove here because he's vital for future battles, but I don't have a choice, so I send him in on a quick attack that procs static. That's huge, maybe we can still win this. So I go through a Shockwave, and of course the Emolga survives again on 1 HP. This flying rat just won't go down. Thankfully, Dove somehow survives a hard Volt Switch, meaning on the following turn, one more Shockwave is enough for the KO and the win. Holy shit, that was way too close, but somehow we pulled through. Honestly, if the AI hadn't completely broken, don't think we would have made it, but hey, not my fault. Out of the frying pan into the fire then, because now we've gotten past that major roadblock, we've got Clay to deal with. Luckily, there's a few things I can do to make this impossible challenge slightly more manageable. Running north past Driftvale City, I can make it to Chargestone Cave. There's 2 electric types I can find here, a Tynamo and a Joltik. Tynamo would be better, but it's got a really low encounter chance, so instead I find a Joltik I name Rose. Joltik isn't super useful right now, but once she evolves, she should become a key member of my team going forward. Also, while in Chargestone Cave, I can evolve Jackson into a Magnezone. Now, I could see the argument for keeping Jackson a Magneton, as he's just so stupidly tanky with the Eviolite, but I can't turn down just how much damage Magnezone can do with electric and steel type gems. That just leaves one more thing I can do before Clay and his ground types, and that's teach Drake Fire Punch with the move tutor in Driftvale. With that, it's time for Clay, and despite having a plan, this could all go wrong quickly, so fingers crossed we've got what it takes to get past what is probably going to be the hardest gym fight of the run. So Clay starts with Krokorok, and I start with Jackson. Luckily, this is one of Clay's easier Pokemon because Jackson can easily outspeed and KO with a single Signal Beam. Second is Sandslash, who Jackson can't outspeed, but thankfully it just goes through a Home Claws, so I'm 3 to 1 shot with a gem boosted Mirror Shot. Well, shit. Okay, that's not the end of the world, because I can switch into Dove, who should be able to finish off the Angry Mole. I know Clay will heal first though, so I'm safe to get off a Signal Beam that actually crits and KOs. Huh, okay then. Didn't need that crit, but not gonna complain. Third for Clay is Onix, who is annoying because it has Sturdy, meaning I can't one-shot it. Jackson also has Sturdy though, so I'm safe to go through a Flash Cannon that brings the Onix down to 1 HP. Not sure why the Onix didn't go through a Bulldoze there, but okay, sure, whatever. I do now have to risk Jackson on another Bulldoze, but luckily it misses thanks to the accuracy drop through Mirror Shot. That means Jackson can easily KO with a Signal Beam. That just leaves Clay's ace Excadrill, who I had a pretty straightforward plan for. I can switch into Drake, and thanks to a held air balloon, he's immune to the ground type attack the Metal Mole tries to land. I then go through a Fire Punch that does a decent amount as the Excadrill misses a Rock Slide. Taking 1 Rock Slide there was actually what I was planning for. Because I didn't though, I might as well go through another Fire Punch, and Excadrill misses again. I know moles are blind, but Jesus, he really needs some glasses. I might actually be able to KO the mole with just Drake here, especially because the mole misses through a 3rd time. What are the odds on that? Can someone in the comments tell me? Because that's kind of crazy. Annoyingly, Drake just misses the KO with another Fire Punch, meaning he's gonna have to land 1 more hit here, and despite his good luck so far, he can't quite manage to land one last fire punch because the mole finally lands a rock slide and gets the flinch. That's really not a huge problem though, because now with the mole so low, I can switch into Dove on a bulldoze and then KO with a single acrobatics. Didn't even need my full plan there because of some bullshit luck. Not gonna complain though. That's our 5th gym taken down. Should have gone to Specsavers extra drill. Carrying on then, we can make our way through Chargestone Cave, and once we reach the other side, we're able to get another encounter. On Route 7, I'm able to find the spiky horse, Hobbs the Zeb Striker. Hobbs isn't super useful because he's just another fast electric type, but at least now I've finally got 6 Pokemon. I'm also able to evolve Rose into Galvantula. Finally having 6 fully evolved Pokemon couldn't have come quick enough, because now we've got to deal with the hardest challenge we've faced so far during this run. I'm just stuck in with you. Obviously Skylar can't stand up to our electric type attacks, so she goes down super easy. Now we've gotten past that joke of the gym fight, there's a couple of scary trainers between us and our next gym fight against Drayden. Thankfully our team is pretty strong and able to push through with no real issues, meaning in no time at all we arrive at Drayden and his dragons. This fight is actually super scary. I have no real counters for Drayden's dragons, and if I'm not careful, the run could end right here. Let's hope this goes well then. Drayden starts with possibly one of his scariest Pokemon, Druddigon, and I start with Jackson. I'm able to start the fight by setting up a Reflect, and then for some reason Druddigon goes for a Rock Slide instead of Revenge. That's confusing, but then the AI seems to have been drunk all game, so maybe I should stop questioning it. With Reflect set up, I don't want to risk Jackson any more than I already have, so I switch into Drake on another Rock Slide. Drake is then able to get off the Thunder Wave before the Druddigon finally goes for a Revenge. Drake then lands a Confuse Ray as the scary dragon hurts himself. Perfect. I've now partially neutered this threatening dragon, so let's hope we can now cleanly KO. So I go through a gem boosted power gem that does decent damage, but annoyingly, a lot of that damage is immediately healed by a citrus berry. Thankfully, Druddigon just continues to hurt itself. A second power gem then leaves Druddigon with the perfect amount of HP to where Drake can KO on the next turn, and Drayden won't heal. But of course, Druddigon hurts himself in confusion again, meaning Drayden is likely to use a potion next turn. I think that's called suffering from success. A misclick on the following turns means I don't even get off another attack as the Druddigon heals, as instead I go through a Confuse Ray into the confused Pokemon. I'm such a pro at this. Thankfully, despite my misplay, the game doesn't punish me because after landing another power gem, Druddigon misses a Dragon Tail. My luck is just stupid, never punished. My luck is kind of bullshit, and that's made even more clear by the fact that when the Dragon Tail does finally land on the following turn, I get forced to send in Jackson, who is exactly who I want in this situation. With Jackson back out, I can reset up, Reflect, and Druddigon not only goes for a resisted Rock Slide, he even misses. This is getting slightly silly. I do then make a bit of the risky play by sending in Rose, but she dodges another Rock Slide on the switch. I can now finally KO the stupid dragon with 2 Signal Beams after taking a Rock Slide. That took forever, but at least that's one of Drayden's scariest Pokemon taken down. Second is Altaria, and I'm expecting a Fire Blast here, so I switch into Hobbs, who takes the hit pretty well. A gem boosted Discharge then fails to do 50%, but at least Hobbs dodges a Hypnosis. Hobbs is then able to bring the Cloud Dragon really low with another Discharge, before being hit by a really scary Dragon Pulse. Right, now forced to switch again, but Best is perfect to send in here as he takes the Fire Blast well, and then is able to finish off the Altaria with another gem boosted Discharge. Third for Drayden is Flygon, who you would think would be a bit of a problem, but Dove has become the perfect Pokemon to handle ground types. I can switch Dove in on an Earth Power and then outspeed and lock Flygon into Earth Power with an Encore. With Flygon stuck going through a move that can't hit Dove, I'm perfectly safe to KO with Acrobatics. That just leaves Drayden's ace, Haxorus. This thing is super scary, but thankfully I've got Jackson at basically full HP, and he should hard counter this monster dragon. So I Volt Switch Jackson in before being hit by a Dragon Tail and being forced right back out. Okay, that's slightly annoying, let's try that again. So I switch Jackson back in, who this time stays in after taking an X-Scissor. Jackson then easily is able to take down the Haxorus because after getting off a Thunder Wave, the Haxorus spams Dragon Dances in an attempt to outspeed Jackson. This gives Jackson the perfect amount of time he needs to KO with 2 Flash Cannons. Easy. That Druddigon was a pain in the arse, but other than that was a pretty straightforward fight. 7th gym badge acquired, 1 more to go. Thankfully, it doesn't take long to get to our final gym fight, and just like Skylar before him, Marlon isn't exactly a problem, as I'm able to just spam electric type attacks for the win. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean I get a 3 ride to the Pokemon League through our final challenge, because first I've got a load of Team Plasma stuff to deal with. At the very least, on the way, I am able to catch one final Pokemon. In Shoal Cave, I'm able to find and catch a Tynamo I name Aberline. Once Aberline has evolved, he gains the ability Levitate, which is super useful and takes some of the pressure off of Dove when it comes to dealing with ground types. I'm then able to steamroll all of Team Plasma up into our final fight with Ghetsis. I do have a slight level advantage here, which is nice because this Ghetsis fight is no joke. Ghetsis has some really scary Pokemon, so let's hope we can push through. Ghetsis starts with his annoying Ghost Coffin, Cothagrigus, and I start with Jackson. Thankfully, Jackson is immune to Toxic, so he's pretty safe to slowly take down the Coffin with discharges. This does take forever because the Coffin has leftovers and it likes to spam Protect, but eventually Jackson is able to KO without taking too many hits. Second for Ghetsis is Seismitoad, but I can easily deal with this ugly Toad with my go-to ground type counter, Dove. So I switch into Dove, get off an Encore, and then KO the Toad with 2 acrobatics. Next is Hydreigon, who Jackson walls pretty well, so I switch him in on a Dragon Rush that misses. I then attempt to set up a Reflect, but annoyingly, Hydreigon lands a Dragon Rush that not only crits, doing massive damage, but also gets the flinch. Right, that hurt. No more crits like that, please. So I try once again to set up a Reflect, and I get flinched for a second time. This is not looking good. Jackson was my main counter through a lot of this team. At the very least, on my third attempt at setting up a Reflect, I don't get flinched again, but now Jackson is so low, I'm probably not going to be able to use him for the rest of the fight. Annoying, but hopefully we can still win this. With Reflect up, I can now switch into Rose, take a Dragon Rush, and then KO Hydreigon with a gem boosted Signal Beam. Fourth for Ghetsis is Electros, so I send in Drake, who tanks the Flamethrower. Drake is then able to set up a Light Screen, meaning a second Flamethrower does next to nothing. With Light Screen set up, I switch into Best, who takes a lot more from a Crunch than I was hoping. Because Best is taking so much from Crunches, I'm only able to get off one Hyper Voice before I'm forced to switch again. Luckily, I'm pretty confident with Aberline being at full HP, he should be able to finish off the Electric Eel, unless on the switch I get crit again, and I have my defenses lowered. Okay, this is getting really bad. I clearly saved up all of my bad luck for this one fight. I'm fairly sure though, as long as I don't get crit again, Aberline can take at least one more hit, so I go through a Crunch and pray, and Aberline survives, thank God. Aberline is then able to finish off the Electros with one last Crunch. Fifth for Ghetsis is Drapion, and at this point I only have one chance of winning this fight without having anyone go down. I think Dove might be able to KO the Drapion and the Toxicroak here if I can lock Drapion in to Earthquake. I'm not sure if I can beat an Earthquake as all of my Pokemon are super low on HP, but it's the only way I can see myself getting through this fight deathless. So I switch into Drake, who has the most HP remaining of my Pokemon, and Drake takes a hard Night Slash. Right, now to switch into Dove. Again, if Drapion goes to the Earthquake here, I might just be able to pull through this fight deathless, so I hold my breath, and Drapion goes to the Earthquake. Holy shit, that was lucky. Dove is then able to take down the Drapion with 2 acrobatics, as one of them crits. Last for Ghetsis then is Toxicroak, who goes down to a single acrobatics. Dove, you absolute legend. I can't believe I got through that. Dove is simply built different. If he hasn't earned a like on this video after that performance, well, I don't know what you want from him. Well, we've managed to get past what was one of the closest battles I've ever had with Ghetsis, meaning it's now time for our final challenge, the You Know Them Pokemon League and Champion. On challenge mode, this might be one of the hardest Elite Fours in all the baseline Pokemon games, so we're going to need my Pokemon to give it their all and for luck to be on my side. Let's see who we're bringing. First up is Jackson, the Magnezone. Second is Rose, the Galvantula. Third is our best boy Dove, the Emolga. Fourth is Drake, the Anthros. Fifth is Aberline, the Electros. And last but not least, we have Best, the best Jolteon around. All my Pokemon put in some serious work to bring us this far. Let's go see if we can pull off a win. So first up for this Elite Four is Chantel, and this fight is going to be nearly impossible to get through deathless. Before we get to that problem though, firstly we've got to get through Chantel's Cothagrigus, so I start with Jackson. Jackson once again proves to be the perfect counter for the Coffin, so after 2 Thunderbolts, it goes down, while the Coffin just misses a Will-O-Wisp. Second is Golurk, who thanks to Dove and Encore isn't a problem. Before I finish Golurk off though, I do send in Aberline to finish off the Golem, so that when Chantel sends out her Chandelier, I have Aberline ready to go. I need Aberline ready to go here, because I think he's my best option to handle this monster. I'm not over exaggerating exaggerating when I say this might be the single most threatening Pokemon in this entire run. This is because it's holding a choice scarf, so it's going to outspeed every single one of my Pokemon, and thanks to Fire Blast, it might just be able to one-shot every single one of my Pokemon as well. Because of just how threatening this Pokemon is, I have to take a risk with Aberline here, who is the least vital member of my team, and if he survives, he might be able to one-shot with a Crunch. So I go through a Crunch and just hope maybe Aberline will survive, and unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. Rest in peace, Aberline, your sacrifice was ultimately needed. With Aberline down, I am able to send in Drake, who survives the Fire Blast, and is able to set up a Light Screen. Right, with Light Screen set up, I should be able to at the very least stall out Fire Blast. So I switch into Dove, who tanks a nasty Fire Blast. Then I switch into Best and immediately get crit, losing one of my strongest Pokemon to bad luck. Well, that's really shit. Losing such a strong Pokemon right at the start of this Elite Four has put me in a really bad place. At the very least, Jackson then avoids a Fire Blast before landing a crit Thunderbolt, taking down the stupid Murder Ace. The rest of Chantel's team go down pretty easily thanks to Thunderbolts from Jackson, meaning we've won the fight. The chances of us now winning this run aren't looking great. Thankfully, up next to this Elite Four is Grimsley, who should prove to be much easier than Chantel. Grimsley starts with Liepard, and I start with Jackson. Jackson does have to take a gem boosted Fake Out, but honestly, this kitty can't really hurt Jackson, so it's a simple case of getting off a few Thunderbolts till the kitty dies. Second is Crocodile, who would be a problem, but once again I have Dove, so after encoring the Croc into Earthquake, I can KO with Acrobatics. Third is Scrafty, who is actually kind of threatening, or he would be if I didn't have Encore. I switch into Jackson to bait a fighting move, and then switch back into Dove, who resists the attack. Once the Scrafty is then locked into Brick Break, I can Volt Switch into Rose, who KOs with Signal Beams. Next is Absol, who goes down to another Signal Beam, and that just leaves Bishop, who is walled by Jackson and easily KO'd. Okay, that fight was a lot easier than Chantel, but unfortunately, that's my last 3 fight for this Elite Four. Up next is the Psychic type trailer, Caitlyn, who starts with a Mushana, while I start off with Jackson. Jackson is immediately able to land a hard Thunderbolt before taking a Hypnosis, which is cured by a Berry. I then get lucky because the second Thunderbolt high rolls on the following turn, KOing the stupid Dream Cow pig thing. Next is a Pokemon I can't pronounce, which threatens with Focus Blast, so I Volt Switch into Drake. Drake takes the hit well, and then I'm able to set up a Light Screen as the Psychic Fetus thing heals with a Recover. With Light Screen up, I'm then safe to get off a Thunder Wave as Drake takes a decently strong Psychic that annoyingly lowers Drake's special defense. Because of that defense drop, I'm now forced to switch with another Volt Switch into Rose. Rose does have to take a Psychic, but thanks to Light Screen, it doesn't do too much, and then Rose is able to take down the Fetus with a Signal Beam, or Rose will miss the KO by what looks like 1 HP again. The amount of times I leave Pokemon on 1 HP is crazy, I swear. Because Rose missed the KO, she does have to take another strong Psychic, but at the very least, she then picks up the KO with 2 more Signal Beams after the Psychic Fetus gets healed by a Thor Restore. Next is Sigilyph, who would be scary, but Rose can outspeed and one-shot with a Thunderbolt. Fourth is Gothitelle, so I Volt Switch into Dove. Honestly, went into Dove there, hoping that Gothitelle would go through a Calm Mind, and then I'd be able to lock it into Calm Mind with an Encore. Unfortunately, instead, Dove gets hit by a really strong Shadow Ball. That's bad, because now I'm going to have to Volt Switch again, this time into Jackson. Jackson is able to bring the Gothitelle down, but not before he's brought to below half by a Shadow Ball and Psychic. All that leaves the Caitlyn is her Life Orb Metagross, so we're really in a great spot here, aren't we? Honestly, with my team so beat up, there's basically no way I'm getting through this fight without more deaths, so I stay in the hope that maybe the AI will fuck up again and Metagross won't go for Hammer Arm, but of course, my luck with the AI finally runs out and Jackson goes down to a Hammer Arm. Rest in peace, buddy, you held this team together this entire run. With Jackson down, this run is pretty much over. I decide to send in Dove so he can lock the Metagross into Hammer Arm. Dove does manage to do this, but he's not got enough HP to survive the hit. Rest in peace, Dove, you were my favourite, don't tell anyone else. Drake tries his best to take down this metal monster with a single Thunderbolt, but unfortunately he can't quite get the KO, so he also falls. Rose is now my last Pokemon standing, and she is able to take her revenge for her fallen comrades and finish off the metal monster with one last attack, but it's a Pyrrhic victory because there's no way we can win from this point on with just Rose. Now obviously I could end this video by saying that we challenged Marshall and went down in a blaze of glory, but instead I'd like to think me and Rose went to retire somewhere on a nice beach instead. So with that, unfortunately, we did lose the run, but that happens from time to time, so I hope you still enjoyed the video anyway. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, it's always appreciated.